Oh, she's gonna come.
She's starting off.
She'll be right back.
Well, alrighty then. Right, rock and roll.
You need a chair that's duty belt accommodating.
Basically, so that's fine. Okay. As getting up usually causes the problem because I take the chair with me.
We get you an exercise ball.
There we go.
All right, 6 o'clock. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Miranda, roll call, please.
Mayor Sherman. Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom.
Here.
Councilor Basil.
Here.
Councilor Burrell. Here. Councilor Scalise.
Here.
Councilor Spradlin.
Here.
Councilor Tyree.
Here.
Okay, approval of agenda, looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda for the regular meeting of August 26, 2024.
Second.
Okay. Approval of minutes, looking for an approval. Roll call vote.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Councilor Scalise.
Yes.
Councilor Burrell. Yes. Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Councilor Basil.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom.
Yes. Okay, now, approval of minutes, looking for a motion.
I move we approve the regular meeting minutes of August 12th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Councilor Burrell. Yes. Councilor Scalise.
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Councilor Basil.
Yes.
Councilor Tyree.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom.
Yes. All right, visitors and delegations. Up first, we have Eastbourne County Hospital Board, Larry Coughlin.
Library.
East Library, sorry. And an illiterate Mayor Pro Tem.
Nope, that was my, I do apologize.
Council, Mayor and Council, I'm here representing the board of the Eastbourne County Hospital. We have some concerns about the intersection of Cameron and Everett. We have been watching it very closely because we have a lot of traffic there, and we have, in the last 3 or 4 months, we've had over 8 incidents of very close to having accidents there. We would like to have some stop signs on Everett going east and west so that we can control that traffic a little bit more. We just feel that there's too many things going on and we need to have some kind of control on that corner. And we would appreciate your taking a look at it. I know that Laura, our director, has visited with Dale about it a little bit. But we would like to have something done, and I have another board member, Andrew Strand, and my director, Laura McConnell, with us. And I'd like to introduce Laura, and she's got some comments to make.
I don't know that I have a lot of comments. I do have Matt Rodriguez here, if it's okay if he shares. He's a neighbor in the area, and it's about the same thing, if that's okay.
Just before we continue, can I ask a clarifying question? This is the northwest corner, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's near the playground.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Council, I'm Matthew Rodriguez, 11407 Everett Street, right there on the corner. I've lived there for only 3 years, and I've seen one accident that was a fairly bad accident involving a family of 4. A 6-year-old girl and maybe 2-year-old boy were hurt in that accident, just somebody speeding through, not slowing down. I have 3 kids that live and play right there on the street, and it's right there by the playground, and I see countless cars that don't slow down, and they just speed through, don't even look. And even when we ride bikes, I make my kids stop, and I'm pointing out, like, you see these cars, they don't stop. So it's just a constant problem with that intersection, and it's the only one surrounding the library that doesn't have a stop sign. And it just needs one, especially with the playground right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have Andrea Strand, who's our board secretary.
Hi. In going, I've been driving that several times, just trying to watch it. And what I kind of notice when you're driving south on Cameron and you get to the intersection of Cameron and Everett, your focus is immediately taken to the playground. And I think because it's kind of an open area, that's the first thing you're looking at instead of really watching traffic. And I kind of noticed that since we no longer have the middle school, to me it would make sense if you could take this stop signs that are at Howard and Cameron and just move them the block south, since there's more children activity there now and there's nothing at the middle school, and that way it would still have a direct path through that. But just driving it, it really does need some stop signs, I think. Thanks for your consideration.
I think that's all we have.
That's
Thank
it?
you.
Okay. Any comments?
We'll have Dale present at the next council meeting. He's done a little bit of work out there studying it. And so we'll take note of all those comments and then have Dale come in next meeting.
Perfect. Okay. Next, we have a presentation from Hans Ruddock for the Excel Energy.
Good evening, council. Thanks for having me here. My name is Hans Roddick. I'm the Northern Colorado Area Manager for Excel Energy. I handle our local community relations and government affairs across the region. My territory covers from Estes Park out to Sterling. About 3 months into this role, had the opportunity to meet Councilmember Gorell at CML, and we talked a lot about Pawnee and kind of the future of Pawnee, and promised to come out here to talk to you guys, give you an update on what's happening out there at the plant and what the conversion process is going to look like here over the next year or two. So if Tyler could help me with the slides, we're going to just run through a brief agenda here, have a pretty quick presentation I want to run through with you guys, and then I'll try to answer any questions to the best of my abilities. So at a real high level, I wanted to update folks just kind of about who Excel is, if people aren't aware. We are a publicly regulated utility that's traded on the stock exchange that serves 8 states with roughly 5 million customers, close to 6 million customers across those 8 states, the largest customer base being here in Colorado. So we serve Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then the 2 Dakotas. We're nationally recognized on a variety of fronts, everything from clean energy transition to our focus on wildfire prevention and mitigation efforts. Next slide, please, Tyler. So here in Colorado, we have the opportunity to work with a variety of communities across the state. We serve 34 counties and 125 communities, including the city of Brush. Combined, we're at about 3 million customers when it comes to natural gas and electric. Next slide, please. So kind of looking to the future here and our current energy mix that is changing as we speak. Right now, we get about 58% of our energy base from coal and natural gas, those firm dispatchable energy resources. The rest of that makeup comes from wind and solar as the primary base. And as you can see there, from 2005, we've achieved a 53% reduction in our CO2 emissions. And with the target, we're on target to hit that 80% reduction by the end of 2030. So thinking about 2030, that's an important target for us, because there are state guidelines and regulations that we have to hit. And so we're looking at wind energy and solar as kind of the future of where we're going to go. In 2005, only 2% of electricity came from wind in Colorado, and by 2030, we expect that to be up to 58%. What that means is that since 2017 to 2022, we saw a savings in fuel costs of about $700 million for our Colorado customers. It's obviously clean and renewable. Thankfully, the wind blows a lot here on the eastern plains, and we want it to continue that way. And then there's also local benefits for it, from a tax perspective to, sales for when, folks who own the land sell that piece of land off to the developer, to the jobs that come with constructing and maintaining these pieces of equipment. Next slide, please, Tyler. So solar, thankfully the sun shines a lot here in Colorado. We're 300 days a year. And as we work to attain those carbon reduction goals, we expect our solar output to quadruple by 2031. We already have a dozen projects across the state that are powering about 200,000 homes, and we expect to add a sizable amount more. Some recent projects that we have completed across the state include those in Pueblo County at 250 megawatts, and actually about 450 megawatts of total power there, and then in El Paso County another 100 plus megawatts as well. So, as we look to Pawnee and what the future of Pawnee is going to look like, I just want to provide some high-level facts, and then we're going to dive into what the transition process is going to look like from coal to natural gas. So the unit out there, it's a 505 megawatt unit that's been in operation since 1981, so over 4 decades of positive service there. In 2024, our Xcel paid about nearly $10 million in property taxes to the county here, and that is broken out into a variety of factors to places like the school district and whatnot. We had 68 employees out there at the plant as of June. That number fluctuates a couple here and there depending on how we count some of the environmental scientists and folks that are out there. Next slide, please, Tyler. So natural gas conversion, I just want to begin by saying that, I heard that there were some rumors that people thought the plant was going to be, decommissioned or torn down or things of that nature. Comanche down in Pueblo is being decommissioned, but we worked things out with the Colorado Public Utilities Commission in our clean energy plan to ensure that that Pawnee remained in service. So construction will begin the first quarter of 2025, which is just around the corner. We've already been securing permits with the state and the county to conduct the work out there that's going to take place. We expect coal operations to end roughly September 1st in 2025. So no more trains, no more coal ash from that point. We're going to manage it to where basically we will use the rest of the coal at a certain point from the pile that's out there. We normally have around 40 days of coal out of the plant, so we'll backtrack that and just burn that down so there isn't any excess. January 1st of 2026 is when natural gas has to be operational there at the facility. So basically between September and January, there's going to be a lot of extra work and then testing to make sure everything's ready to rock. The nice thing about this conversion is that we were going to retain that 505 megawatt capacity of those firm dispatchable resources, which is super important as we see continued electrification across the grid. Next slide, please, Tyler. So there's some positive benefits. Obviously, there's major emissions benefits. Natural gas is a much cleaner fuel than coal. Not only from the invisible emissions that none of us can see, but from the actual ash that happens and the dust that is kicked up every now and then when the wind blows out there. Like I said, we retain that 505 megawatts, which is super important, and that's roughly enough power to support 175,000 homes across the state. There's obviously benefits as well when it comes to a tax perspective and the jobs that will remain at the plant. And we just continue to be a good partner here in the community through it. Next slide. So on the construction side of things, close to a $90 million budget. There's a variety of technical things that have to happen. Some of the coal operations and the pieces of equipment that are there are going to be removed, and new pieces of equipment will be installed. The boiler conversion, we're building a wastewater treatment plant there, some pipeline work, and then obviously just the indirect labor costs that come with it. So we have some there's some mechanisms that the PUC put on us to achieve these targets and the timeline for it. They're called performance incentive mechanisms. So it tracks, if we're coming in on budget, on time, and making sure that the plant runs efficient once it's ready to rock. So this slide kind of helps outline the regulatory history, why we're actually doing the conversion at Pawnee. I think is something that's important to note. So in 2021, we submitted our clean energy plan to the Public Utilities Commission. We originally proposed a 2028 conversion, but based on some of the negotiations that took place, the time frame was whittled down to 2026, so that process was sped up a little. We were granted a CPCN, which basically says, yes, there's a public need for this facility to remain here and to have it as natural gas. And final settlements occurred, and then final documents were signed here this March. So things are moving forward and cooking with gas, so to speak. Last slide here. This is, not as relevant, but it is just important as we think about these type of transitions. There can be some road bumps that take place when plants are converted or decommissioned. So we try to do our best to ensure that, employees are retained. If any of those jobs do potentially leave the plant, that they're offered other positions within the company. So no forced layoffs will be occurring, is my understanding. And then obviously we just want to work with you guys as we navigate this process to maintain our good partnership and relationship and ensure that we can continue operating here in the good way that we've done for the last 4+ decades. So with that, pretty much concludes what I have, and appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Any questions or comments? Yep.
Is it being mandated to be decommissioned in 2041?
I think that's the expected life plan, the planned life. So when it's
$90 million for 15 more years?
But so there is, I was looking through some things, and there is a chance that the plant itself can actually get rebuilt based on public need. So I think that's part of the strategic reasoning why we were doing the conversion instead of a full decommission. Because if you decommission something and it's no longer there, and it shows the commission, they're like, oh, you figured out a way to operate without this, and we want this to continue, because it's super important for us to have that firm base load. Wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun doesn't shine. So we're trying to figure out how to overcome that through like battery storage and things of that nature, but you can't replace natural gas.
Sure.
Hans, I think you already addressed the topic. I had a question that I had noted here. What is the job reduction going to be from coal to natural gas?
So I don't have the exact specifics of what the numbers are going to look like, but it's my understanding we should be very close to that 68 figure. There could be a few positions lost, but again, those folks would be offered other positions within the company. We do have some contractors that are out there that will likely get impacted. They handle a lot of our, they handle the coal ash and the dust and things of that nature. So we're not going to have the big pile of coal, and there's not going to be as much ash mitigation and dust control efforts, but we're still going to have the landfill, and there'll be some things to monitor out there for the years to come.
I'm sure our firefighters will appreciate that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. New challenges with natural gas fires, but hopefully far fewer than we've experienced over the years with coal.
Is that relationship going to be maintained with the rural fire department and having our firefighters out there as far as being able to tour the facility, understanding what the facility is going to be like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're in the process of renegotiating the contract with them, with the district, to make sure that we continue, having good service with them. We've continued to pay the contract, even though there's some gray area as to whether or not it's expired or is squared away, but we want that service there. We're in contacts and have kept Monty and Tyler in the loop on that about where we are. So I'm hopeful that we're able to come to an agreement to retain that.
I really appreciate you coming tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure.
So, giving them jobs in the company, is there a good chance they'd have to move, or would those jobs?
That is
be
a
there?
possibility,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we'll do our best, obviously, to keep as many folks here and in the community, but, you know, I'm sure there's gonna be some technical factors that will result in not as many staff needing to be there when we go from coal to gas.
Sure. Anybody else?
I will say though, I did tour just as an aside, when I was thinking about the wind and solar stuff and how that's gonna impact the county and the communities out here, kinda in the Eastern Plains. I toured the Northeastern Junior College and their applied technology campus there. I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to take a look at it. It's really cool. They have, I believe, the only wind tech program and now solar as well. We're supporters of them and support what they're doing out there. And most of those projects are funded through the private sector and the companies that are operating those. So as more of the kind of wind and solar generation comes online, we really hope that we can train up the workforce, you know, from the regions to have them operating and maintaining them. It's pretty cool. Those wind towers, those guys have to climb up like 300 feet in the air to maintain them and operate them. So
No, thank you.
some brave souls.
Pass.
I appreciate your time. Really
Thank
do.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Have a
much.
good day. Okay, next we have citizen comments. Citizens are invited to speak at council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There is a 5-minute time limit per person, unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please note there is no formal action to be taken on any item that is not on the posted agenda due to the open meeting law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. To better assist you with questions, please submit them in writing to the city clerk and someone from staff will respond. Before we get going, if you're here for the Cambridge Street drainage, we're going to talk about that next with Dale Culrick. So, is there any city or comments?
Thank you. I want to address the ongoing problem with drainage on Daniel Street. Daniel Street is right next to Ackley Building there, and not just this past rainstorm, but anytime we have a heavy rainstorm, we have very serious flooding on that street. And I have pictures to show what's going on. Would you care to see those?
Sir, I'm sorry, would you mind telling us your name and your address?
My name's Kevin Crook. I live at 719 Daniel Street. This is the last rainstorm, but it's every time we have a heavy rainstorm, we get this serious flooding on that street, and it's flooding our basements.
Was this on that Monday storm 2 weeks
This
ago?
is the last storm, but it's not just that storm. It's any time we get a heavy rainstorm, it's like that.
Is it this significant every rainstorm?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I'm not quite as bad, but it is pretty significant.
I'm sorry, I'm definitely not supposed to interact with you, but I need clarification.
No, it's fine. So we just have the one drain at the end of the street, and I think it's a 12-inch drain. I'm not sure of that, but, okay. But we also get the runoff from the high school coming down to that drain, and it's creating a lot of problems.
Are we able to keep these?
Yes,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Okay, any more comments?
I'm Rebecca Hankins. I live at 707 Daniels Street. And I just want to reiterate what the last gentleman said about flooding on Daniels. A couple of weeks ago was the worst that it's been at my house. It has entered my garage before, but this time I watched it coming up higher and higher on the lawn, covering my little covered porch area, and it actually started to enter my house at the front door. I had to put a towel in between the door and the screen door, and at that point, it decided to stop raining, and recede. But it was starting to come in, and I have pictures of that if you wanted to see on my phone, but,
Especially since it's on your phone, I think
Yeah.
we're okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's David Banks. I live on Mill Street right there on the corner where they're talking about. This last rain, boy, it got me bad. I had 6 foot of water in my basement, ruined my hot water heater, all the drywall up there, and then I got the front porch I had this much water in it, ruined all the drywall, so I gotta rip all that out. I mean, if they just fixed the drain down back, I think it would help everybody out on that street. It's just not big enough to handle the water coming from down there, across the street, in the school. It's just not big enough. I even went down there the last one to try to clean it out, but I got down there. I'm not going any further. So, yeah, if you could do some of that drain, it'd be great, because like I said, the last time, it ruined my hot water heater downstairs, the drywall and all that stuff, so just, I mean, try to fix it if you can, and it'd help us all out, even Paul down the street, it'd help him, because it would separate all the water from down there, because when it runs back over there, it runs over the sidewalk, through my grass, and everything down through there. It's just, that's the problem, I think, just the drain, that's all it needs, and I think that everybody'd be happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Paula Crook at 719 Daniels also. And we did have a lady kind of diagonally across the street from us. Water was up so high it came in her car, totaled her car. And actually, your daughter. Yeah. And then the street sweeper, when they do come, because there's just so much mud. There's a field next to our house. It's a lake, the street's a lake, as you saw in those pictures and everything. And there's still a lot of mud on our street, because I don't know if he went by once or twice, but it's just a lot. And every time it rains, I think we all probably cringe of, don't flood, you know. And even this last rain just last week, just a regular rain, but it was kind of heavy. I saw the street starting to get all the water in it and everything. And it was just like, no, don't make a lake. Don't do that, or you're going to start, coming in. And then Anthony Romero, he was here last week, and I'm not sure why he couldn't make it this week, because then we were informed that meeting was for this week. But he, in the past, has got his basement flooded, and you guys probably actually heard about that one. I know Tyler probably did. And then this time, he also got water in his basement again. Not as bad, but he did get it in his basement again. So anything you could do. I don't know if that drain needs cleaned out. I don't know if it needs bigger, but they also put the ramp for the big trucks going into the high school field right by the drain. So dirt falls in there, all this stuff falls in there, and then I went down there and I looked down, you can totally see water. It doesn't look like it's down enough. And so it might help to clean it out. I don't know if we can add a drain at each end, because even when we just get regular drain, it'll puddle right there coming into our street on Mills to Daniels. A puddle just stays there for several days, just regular rain, because there's just no drainage. So, yeah, anything y'all could do, we'd definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Next from management, we have the stormwater update with Dale Colrick.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lead off, and then Dale will talk more specifically about Cambridge and some of the other localized flooding that we have in different areas. My part of this discussion was, I was just going to give some history to the city council. I think Dan is the only one on council that started tackling the stormwater problem over 20 years ago. Back in 2002, there was a Carter Burgess study, an engineering study that the city of Brush hired the company to come in and start looking at all the stormwater challenges around town. And they did that study because there was a lot of citizens that come in, and every time there was significant rain, actually a medium to a larger rain, or more significant rain, there would be flooding all throughout the community. So the Carter and Burgess study in 2002, it really identified 3 areas or three locations around the community that were problematic. And then shortly after that, there were a lot more discussions after that that was presented to the community. And the Chamber of Commerce really requested a lot more focus on the downtown area of Brush. If you remember, about 20 years ago, the downtown would flood all the time if you were here in the community. And you might remember the old, really high sidewalks and all the challenges that we had down there. So because there was some disagreeing in the community of where the flooding was occurring and what was happening, in 2006, we redid the study using Nolte and Associates. And between those 2 studies, it went from 3 to 5 areas around the community that we were needing to address. And so the city council at that time says, well, if we're going to address these, it's going to cost a lot. So the stormwater fee that you see on your utilities bill each month, that's what helps pay for all these improvements. And we started, we had to look at the list of projects, and we made a decision to tackle the downtown of Brush first. And so we did 3 different projects downtown, putting in the very large stormwater mains that would go out to new ponds. We also put in different type of inlets everywhere so the water could go in faster and less likely to plug up the grates. So now we don't have grates downtown, we have big wide openings. And so so that was the first one that we tackled. And it took us a number of years because of the expense of what it was costing for each of these projects. We did 3 on the downtown area or the Clayton Street area. And when we did that improvement, it's not just those few blocks, because that was a constriction point in our conveyance system, or the piping that was stopping other neighborhoods. So it did help a lot of Cameron Street, and then further down to the west on Edmund Street and Eaton Street, it did help a lot of those places because we were pulling water, taking the constriction out of the pipe and letting water flow better. So we saw very significant improvements there. And then the other one that we had was Williams Street. Williams Street is in the north. I think Dell was called North Central. It was called North Central in the plan, but it's Williams Street Loop up there on the very north end. We had a lot of flooding up in that area, a lot more significant than on the Daniel Street area. It was really deep, and Dell and his crews, they went ahead and made some changes out there utilizing a contractor that was doing some interstate work. And so that one was resolved, and we got good reports during the larger rainstorm that it started to get up a little bit high, but it drained away fast. So that was a positive down there. The other thing that we did probably about 6 or 7 years ago, there were some locations where we had smaller localized flooding, but it was just the inlets. The inlets, debris would get caught into the inlets on the grates, and then it would plug up, and then they couldn't take any water, so we'd have to send crews out there, and some residents would go out there and try and move the debris away to get those to drain. So the Public Works Department went out and they changed out a lot of those drains around the community, different places. Cambridge Street, Dell's going to do a longer presentation on Cambridge Street here in a moment, and that was the other larger project. And so when we look at Cambridge Street, the positive impacts when that's complete is going to be over 90 acres of land on the west side of town. It should help out a lot of that area. So Dell's going to give more details on that project itself here in just a moment. But what the city has done is we've identified these projects. We've saved up money because that stormwater fee doesn't amount to a lot of money each year. So it takes so many years to build up a big enough pot of money. then we go after another project. The other thing that was more recently, the city council last year, they had a priority of getting Cambridge Street complete, but also the council made sure they added other localized areas around the community that were having flooding to address those as well. So not just Cambridge. So we had that tremendous rain event, and a lot of our community did okay with it. But we realized with Daniel Street and a few other places, I think Princeton's another one we want to look at it again. That's our next focus, is start looking at these smaller projects. And everything that everyone said so far, we've really discussed, Dell and I, and we've got videos of it. Went out there, and Dell was lucky enough to be working late, and so he took a drive down to look at Daniels. I got a video of the water coming off the school grounds into the drain. So we've talked about it, and Dale's going to make sure that one is cleaned out, and he's going to take a camera down and see what it looks like down there, make sure it's doing okay. I've already visited with the superintendent of schools about it, even prior to the rainstorm, because we knew we had the gravel that was coming off the property into the drain there. So we're going to look at it pretty heavily, and but there's a lot of history of stormwater, but the city's making constant improvement. And back in 2006, when we did the Nolte study, I told the council, this is not a couple, 3 years and we're done with it. It takes years and years, but every couple, 3 years we tackle another big project. So that's a little bit of history. I wanted to give Dell some time to talk about Cambridge Street, because that is our largest project. And then but be assured that we're going to go out to look at Daniels and see what we can do there. Because remember, I said there was 5 total projects. The next one on the list will probably be the Lincoln Mill Street project, I think it's called, or Basin. And it'll be a little pricey, but it's going to be worth it to get those investments done. But we have to save up a little bit of money to tackle that. But the smaller fixes we can do now. So now turn over to Dell.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. And before I get started on the Cambridge Street, I would like to visit with the Daniel Street residents, and just be assured, in looking at it, this is the first time I've had an opportunity to be out there when some of this is happening, and to look at this. This is not going to be just a simple drain fix. Right now, we have sheet flows that are coming from all around the area that are all converging in this one spot. And so we need to be looking at trying to reduce the amount of flows that are actually contributing to the Daniel Street flooding issue. With that, I was going to mention that the school district property tends to be draining right there into Daniels, and that should not be happening. The school district has their own stormwater systems, their own stormwater ponds, and we will be working very cooperatively with the school district to see about getting that flow from going on to Daniels and into their stormwater system where it belongs. And so we will work with the school district very cooperatively on that one. But we definitely want to be able to take and reduce the amount of flow coming off that property onto the Daniels Street. The other thing that I also did notice, there was a lot of sheet flows that were coming off those empty lots, and they were contributing into that street as well. I saw lots of dirt and lots of mud coming off of that. So I was very fortunate to be where I was at the time. It gave me a whole new perspective and a lot of more insight as to why this is happening, and it should not be. We also had that stormwater line cleaned 2 years ago. We had it jetted out, and we will take another look at that here as well very soon, probably within the next week or two, to see what that looks like down in there. Because we do know that water coming off that school district property is carrying a lot of mud and gravel, and that does reduce the flow capacity. So within the next couple of months, we will be looking at this very seriously. This is the first time I've seen it in totality. I've seen the flooding, but I've not seen the contributions. And so this is one of the things that I want to look at as a whole, and not just one particular component, whether it's a drain or the school district's property sheet flows coming off of empty lots or other areas. I saw there was a lot of other contributions that were coming down Mill Street, and when they don't go down, Daniel Street, they go straight on down to Ray Street. And that's always been an issue, and I've recognized that. And so we need to look at this in a more holistic approach than just a drain or a school district or sheet flows or other areas. So we will be discussing this at a staff level within the next week, even probably tomorrow, as well as into the next weeks, and figure out what we can do. But I will honestly tell you this, we will look at that particular grate and see what we can do. Maybe it needs a combination inlet. The whole idea is, as Monty has mentioned, is that it takes a long time before we can build up enough money in these funds to do some of these projects. And with that, hopefully we can do some minor adjustments, say like maybe putting in one of those, a open curb, sort of like what we've seen in some of these areas. So when there is water coming in there, you get either trash, debris, or leaves, or anything like that covers that grate, then that's not what's plugging it up. The water can still go into that open curb base. So we'll be looking at that. So we will do some things that we can, well, I'll try my best to make sure we can do some things to mitigate it, and that will hopefully reduce the severity of it, but it still needs more than just some of these minor mitigations. So I promise you that. I am looking at this very seriously. This is the Daniel Street is next on my list. It's next on my priority list. So, and I apologize again. We don't control the weather. We design our systems for a 100-year event. On the night of the 12th, we had a 1,000-year event. So when you overwhelm your system by 10 times what its rated capacity is, we're going to have some problems. It doesn't matter where it is. And that was one of the problems with that night of the 12th, is that it was a 1,000-year event, and it masked the areas that we need to be looking at, because everybody was flooding. Everybody had water backed up. So when I go out to try to figure out, okay, where do we need to be focusing next, you couldn't tell, because everything was underwater. And so I was very fortunate to be where I was on that Friday when this last storm hit, which is right around a 10 to 25-year event, and that should have taken it. But it now gave me a better idea of where I need to be focusing. And right now, Daniel Street is the top priority after Cambridge on my list of stormwater projects. And so, again, I can only apologize that you're catching the brunt of it. It's certainly not by design, negligence, or intention. It is what is happening. But we will look at this and we'll see what we can do to seriously mitigate these issues. So I wanted to get this out of the way, so in case you wanted to leave and bore you with my Cambridge Street talk and some you can sit and listen if you like, or if you care to leave, you don't have to listen to me. Because they always tell me that, Dale, you got 5 minutes. All right. Okay, moving on, unless there's any other questions about Daniel Street or anything.
You see what happened now, you know.
This firsthand, but it was a whole picture and not just these.
And then try to turn it into your insurance company and see what they tell you.
Yeah, they won't.
Yeah, right.
They said, it's man-made, they're not covering it.
Right. So, okay, if there's no other questions or comments on Daniel Street, then we'll move on to Cambridge. So we've been making some pretty significant advances on Cambridge Street. So far, we have got several of our lines installed up to the Emerson Street intersection. And with that, we're currently at a bit of a standstill because we're awaiting delivery of some catch basins. We still have not received those yet. However, we still have that open excavation right there just north of Cambridge Street. And with that, we did notice that with this last bit of a rain that came through, typically we would have had flooding at Cambridge as well as Emerson. However, guess what? It didn't happen. Because all that water that typically floods Cambridge and Emerson actually went down into the excavation, didn't do a whole lot of damage, but it sure took that water. And this is the first time in all the time that I've ever worked here for the city of Brush that I did not see that intersection flood. So that was very encouraging. So With that, before, we had just a 24-inch line that carried all 91 acres of water, and it would put it out there by the golf course. And that was woefully inadequate. So currently, working our way down through the system, the new catch basins and the catch basin vaults, manholes. So from the catch basins to that manhole will be a 36-inch line. So there's going to be, we're going to have quad inlets on the south side, and then we're going to have triple inlets on the north side, and those will feed 36-inch lines to a manhole or a basin, whereby which we will have what we call a horizontal elliptical reinforced concrete pipe. It's the squash pipe, for lack of a better term. And so from those catch basins to the manholes where those are going, keep in mind that the 24-inch line that was carrying it only has an area of 3.1 square feet. That's not very much. So by being able to put those 36-inch lines to the manholes and the vaults with a 36-inch line, we've now taken that water from those catch basins to that manhole and that vault. That's 7 square feet. We've doubled it. So they will be able to take that water and get it to the main, actually the main conveyance. From the south catch basin to going north, we'll increase that to a 38-inch by 60-inch squash pipe, and that has an area of 13 square feet. So we just keep doubling as we go along. With that also, we will go from there to where it's just north of the intersection to about the mid-area vault. We will also be using a 42-inch pipe, which is 19 square feet. And then from there, it goes to a 48-inch pipe, which is 22 square feet. And then from there, it goes to a 50-inch pipe, or a 5-foot pipe, 60-inch pipe, which has 39 square feet. And so, as you can see, we're increasing the area that water can get through there as we progress downwards through our project. And so this has worked out really well so far with the last rain that we've had. Like I said, my crews immediately, first thing they headed out to was Cambridge and Emerson. They got there and it was dry. And so that was very encouraging. The other thing that you don't get when I'm giving you all these square footages is the length of pipe. When you add that area by the length of the pipe, you're actually talking about volume. Volume to store that water, get it off the streets, get it underneath the ground and off the roadways. And so that's kind of where we're at this point. We're just now approaching the intersection. We're waiting on some vaults and some other stuff to come in, and so hopefully we will get those in soon. And the reason it's really important we get these in soon because we have to get into restoration. Right now, this is the big thing that I need to be looking at and concentrating on, as well as the contractor. He's looking at this as well. We need to start getting that road back to being whole again. With that, we had to tear out certain sidewalks in order to provide for benching of our trench, for the safety of the contractors and everything like that. And so while it was having to tear out those sidewalks and doing that benching was still within the city's right-of-way. And I still recognize those were people's yards. So I told that to the fiber companies, that yes, maybe a right-of-way, but it's still those people's yards. So we still have to be able to get back and do those restoration of those yards as well as putting in the sidewalk. But until we actually get to the point where we're putting in those catch basins and finishing up that section, we have no idea of how much of what material we're going to be needing to do. So I'd like to give you a date on when this is going to be completed, but if I give you a date, I'm lying to you, to be honest with you. So hopefully supply chain will pick up a little bit. We get our catch basins in, we get this finished up, we can start now looking at what we need in terms of concrete and asphalt and everything else in order to get these yards put back into the way they need to be. Get that street cleaned up as well. I know that it's frustrating for a lot of the residents over there with the mud and everything else that's on that street. We've, both the contractor as well as our crews have tried to pick it up when it's dry, it doesn't want to come up. Tried to pick it up when it's wet, it doesn't want to come up. I don't know what the magic formula for this stuff is going to be, but hopefully we can get that picked up because I'm pretty sure people are getting pretty tired of getting it tracked onto their driveways and potentially in their garages as well. And so those are going to be, that's the next step is let's go ahead and let's finish out. Let's get this catch basins in. Let's get everything ready to go so we know how much of what we need in order to start with our restoration. Let's get this street healed up, and that's what we need to do. And then tomorrow, we'll be talking with also Earth Engineering Consultants. We are utilizing those to help with our compaction, make sure that when we do put the asphalt down, that it's good. We have the correct compaction on everything. So, I'm probably sure that I missed something in somebody's questions.
I don't think so.
I think it's awesome you and Monty have been going to the neighbors and talking to them so much. I appreciate
Right,
that.
and that's something I need to be doing too as well, is getting out there and talking to the residents. However, I have had other items on my plate, like preservation projects, which we'll talk about later during management. So, but that's the update on the Cambridge Street project, is we are down to Emerson. And it's the first time in all these years that I've worked here that I've not seen that intersection underwater or rain like what we had. So this is going to work, and it's going to work well. And so,
One of the things that Dell and I've talked about is as soon as we have everything all connected up at the Emerson area, all the inlets and everything, we know we got the sidewalks to do up on the north side. The yards are probably gonna be the most contentious, and I think there's only 3, Dale, that yard is significant.
and some driveways. I know that we had to tear out a driveway to install a manhole about mid-block.
Yeah, so we're gonna visit with each one of those residents just to make sure we get them taken care of.
I guess I do have a question.
Sure.
With the connection at Emerson, will that benefit the neighboring streets at all as far as drainage?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because right now, water is trying to find the path of least resistance. And when that 24-inch pipe is full of water, like it currently still is, it has no place to go.
Yeah, because it like sits right there at Cambridge and Emerson, and then all of us get it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the other part to that too, and I think this will also help if you go just even further east over to the Sunset area, there is a connection to that stormwater line. There is a break in grade right there between, I want to say Howell and Samples, or maybe it's Howell and Princeton. It's Howell and Princeton. So that's the high spot, and everything, the curbs all go down this way and everything like that. But the sewer also does that as well. But that's below grade. And so when we get these huge storms like this 1,000-year event that we just recently, on the 12th, we had, then when we get that pond that fills up that high, it will also then flow that direction down towards Cambridge and out to our new pond. As a matter of perspective, for those of you who deal with water and know anything about water, the back of the envelope calculation for the 12th, that night of that 12th, just for that stormwater pond alone that we just built, we brought anywhere between 50 and 65 acre-feet of water into that pond. That's like 9 shares of irrigation water of the Upper Platte and Beaver for a year. That's the equivalent that we receive just in that pond. That doesn't include what goes into and onto the golf course. The other thing that we did notice as well is that we're going to take a good portion of Cambridge off that old system that goes out to the golf course, because they had significant flooding out on their greens as well, and those are expensive. And so we want to reduce the amount of water that's actually being pushed out there onto the golf course as well. So.
Dale, I don't know if I talked to you about it, but I've had a rain gauge on my house for quite a while, and it's kind of a neat little piece of technology.
Yeah.
And I've lived there since 2005, and I've had that rain gauge for most of that. I've never seen a rainstorm hit 14 inches an hour. It was coming down at 14 inches an hour. So if it had rained an hour, we'd have been in real trouble.
Yeah.
At that rate, anyway.
Sure.
So, yeah, that was nuts. I've never seen anything like that in the city of Brush. Then it just parked over the top of us for as long as it did.
Again, in my 34 years, I've only seen this happen one other time. That's how rare it is. And when I say a 1,000-year storm event, and I think we talked about this earlier, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen one every 1,000 years. It's what we call a 0.2 to 0.3%. That's, say, 0.2 or 0.3 of a 1% chance of this happening when the weather conditions are what they are.
Lucky us.
Just a quick question on the 1,000-year thing, and Monty, you might be able to answer this too. When it comes to our floodplain, when you can show that you've hit a 1,000-year event, and we're in a 100-year floodplain, is this like evidence you can take back to the powers that be and say, hey, look, we didn't flood.
We had that discussion that we need to document it pretty well. The one thing that we have to be aware of is the basin that brush sits in is like 30-some miles down, so it's huge. So something like that would have to cover a lot of it to truly raise the creek. And
Well, that storm kind of went that way. That's why I was kind of saying we should really look into that, because that storm went towards the Beaver Creek, basin. And
Sure, and to be honest with you, that we did have another storm like that south of us, on top of the basin, where it actually went down the Linden, Last Chance, the Woodrow area, and that's the area we have to watch for when we get these 1,000-year events. And they did have those down there, but it has to be such a huge, significant event that and the ground has to be saturated enough that it can't soak in, and it has to come down Beaver Creek towards us. And so when we did have this event last Monday, we did have Patrick go out and take photographs and monitor the Beaver Creek, and we didn't see any really significant impact. So we are watching that as well. So when we do have these events, document, and that's the key.
I think that's some of the frustration, and I don't know if Daniels is in the floodplain.
No.
I don't think so.
But like a lot of us in Ward 3 pay for flood insurance that does absolutely nothing for us in something like that where it's a storm drainage issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really frustrating to pay those high flood insurance rates for 30 years of a mortgage, and then it's completely useless insurance because.
Mm-hmm. Understood. And we are working, and Tyler can probably speak to it later if he cares to, or maybe at a later date. We are working with FEMA and CWCB on this newest flood study.
Cool.
I have one more question
Sure.
that Counselor Spradlin might actually want to piggyback off of here in just a second. The berms around the retention pond, are they going to remain that high?
No. Those are spoil piles that were going back into the trench that they had to cut, because in order for them to be able to put the pipe in, because there's such a grade, if you're sitting there at Emerson, Cambridge, and you look down that way, it all looks uphill.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is we have to go down deep in order to make grade to the bottom of the pond. Because of the soil types, we've had to bench, so they did the grading and everything, but then they had to come in and create another channel through what they just built in order for them to be able to excavate and still use a trench box and still comply with OSHA regulations. And so then afterwards, once they get everything set, those mounds that you see, those piles, will go back down into that trench and hopefully go back to that grade that it should be at.
So I was just noticing, I think that's what Allison brought it up, is it seems like we've created some ponds between Mill Street and the levee, so I don't know how we're gonna address those later, but that might be an issue.
We will be looking at that as well. The engineers have talked about that as well.
Okay.
As we contractors, so.
There's so many moving parts. Thank you,
Yeah.
Gail, for the update.
Yeah, it's not easy. However, when we're done, it's gonna be great. I guarantee it.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dale. All right, next up, we have the update authorized signatures for Visa accounts with Ms. Chris Foster.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Great to be here this evening. It is necessary for us to come before you and look at updating our Visa credit card account that is held at TCM Bank. They are a merchant vendor for the particular account. It's necessary to update the authorized business officers on this account due to Joe's retirement. and me stepping into that new position. Currently, we do have City Administrator Monty on that account as authorized officers. However, we do need to present to you a new form, a new authorization for TCM Bank. So we would be removing Joanne and putting myself in as Finance Director. Monty, of course, would stay on as City Administrator, but we also would like to place Mayor Dana on that as an officer as well. The officers will have individual access to the Visa accounts and can make any kind of necessary changes that need to happen to the day-to-day business on that account. One thing we noted with TCM Bank, if we do have Mayor Sherman on as a business officer, she cannot self-elect herself by signing the authorization form. So we're requesting that City Clerk Loranda represent the city in her stead. So there again, we do, staff recommends that the council approve the updating the TCM Bank Business Officer form for the city by adding Mayor Dana Sherman, staying with City Administrator Monty, and placing myself now as Finance Director, as business authorized business officers, with City Clerk Loranda signing on behalf of the city. Do you have any questions? Just some housekeeping.
Okay, looking for a motion?
Move that we update authorized signatures for Visa accounts, adding Chris Bostron, Dana Sherman, and keeping Monty Torres as authorized signatures. Thank you.
Do a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? No? Dan? We'll see that. Okay. Roll call vote?
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Gurrell?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes. All right, next up, support letter for a Caring Pregnancy Resource Center. Tyler Purvis.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. So this is just another support letter bringing to Council for approval. The Caring Pregnancy Resource Center of Northeast Colorado, next door to our office. They're looking at doing an expansion, a 1,900 square foot expansion to the west. And as part of that, they're looking for securing some funding through an LPRMAR grant for that. And so they're asking for this letter of support. The city's saying that we support the project and the work that they do in our community, and would benefit overall in seeing an expansion of the services and the building and all that they bring to the community.
Okay. Have a motion?
I move that we do a support letter for a Caring Pregnancy Resource Center.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Gurrell?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Next up, 2025 council report, or priorities, sorry. Monty Torres.
Okay, in your packet is the list of priorities for 2025, and those are the priorities that we first started discussing at a council retreat 2 to 3 months ago. We also had city department heads. They provided some input into that, those priorities. And then myself and Tyler Purvis, we went through those one last time, and then those were presented at the city council a week ago at a council retreat, and we made the adjustments that the city council had requested at that meeting, and we are here for approval of the priorities, and then we are going to start getting the word out to the community of what the priorities are. And that was because after a community survey, one of the things that we found is the majority of the community is not aware of the priorities of the city council. So we want to make sure we got that information out in the future. That's all I have.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I move we approve the 2025 council priorities.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Gurrell?
No.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes. All right. right, next up, we have board appointments with Tyler Purvis.
So this is requesting council appoint Travis Way to the Board of Adjustment. The board is set up right now with 5 members. We have 3, so there's currently 2 vacancies, and we have an application that came in, and one of the 3 is going to be gone over the next month. And so in order to have a meeting, we need to get another person in there. And so I went and talked to Travis Way. If you're not familiar with Travis, who works at the Euro store downtown, also sits on the Chamber Board of Directors, and he was willing to step in and fill the role if the council approves his appointment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion.
Move that we approve the appointment of Travis Way to the Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Guerrero?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes. All right, next up, we have the School District Broadcasting IGA with Loranda and Dan Korab.
I'll start maybe, and then we'll probably need to hear also from Dan, but we started discussing this back in April, May in work sessions, to where the school district broadcasting team the students would go ahead and take over the broadcasting, recording, live stream functions of our audiovisual equipment. And their teacher, the program lead, would take responsibility for training them and finding staffing for the evening replacement. If someone were to be sick, then they would find a replacement. Or if the teacher would need to fill in, we would then pay at the rate of his hourly wage. There is the annual stipend. It establishes what we will pay for the hourly wage, and the term being from July through June of each year. Dan, I'm sorry, I think you tried to say something a minute ago too.
Oh no, I just wanted to make sure that you knew I was here, and I think you did a great job of explaining it. I'm happy to take any questions if the council has them.
Do you have any questions for Dan? No? Okay, looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the school district broadcasting IGA.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Guerrero?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes.
If I might mention one more thing that I forgot to mention, is that this will now go to the Board of Education for their consideration as well.
Okay. Next up, we have finance.
I move we approve disbursements and payroll for August 13th, 2024 through August 22nd, 2024, totaling $731,309.39.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Tyree?
Yes.
Counselor Basil?
Yes.
Counselor Scalise?
Yes.
Counselor Guerrero?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom?
Yes. All right, that passes. Next, we have staff reports. Mr. Tyler Purvis. The Tyler Purvis.
One and only. Congratulations. A couple of items tonight. Excel is here, of course, and with them, we are working on renewing the franchise agreement that does expire at the end of this year. And so Monty and I have put our comments and everything together. Dan is reviewing that. Once we get all of us on the same page with everything, we'll send that over to Excel and see if they have any responses to any questions or comments we have, and then work that out. And then ultimately, there is a public hearing process to be able to approve that. So we're looking to get all that done by the end of the year. The fiber update on that, spoke with Patrick today. They're kind of somewhat bringing the last finishing touches in the community. They've been connecting homes to the fiber network, both Vero as well as Allo, and of course Vero, I don't want to leave them out. So all the main components are in. Right now they're really working on going back and doing any restoration work that needs to happen. We've seen holes that have remained in sidewalks or streets in different places. They're going to be going back and filling those in one section of town. And then the storm came and washed out a lot of dirt where their hand holes and boxes are located at. We have to go back in and do the restorative work there as well. It wasn't an exact timeline. Our guess is maybe a month and a half to 2 months. They might be doing that work, but things come up. But fiber is ready for folks all over town, which is great. And then we have 2 site plans. One was approved for the self-storage and the future boat and RV storage for the Danielsons north of the interstate. We approved that site plan so they can get their stormwater permit through the state and start moving dirt around up there. And then we received a site plan for a truck wash in the Armbar subdivision north of the interstate as well. So we're reviewing that right now. We'll have comments back to them and looking forward to that proposed project, hopefully going forward here in Brush. That's all I got.
Any questions? Okay. Chief Lexsteiner.
Oh, same chair copy. Evening, Pro Tem Mayor, as well council. Not a lot on my side for staff report. I do want to say that we are down another officer. We did have somebody leave last week, so we're one more short on us. So we are actively looking for more officers. We started advertising for more positions, hopefully to get some sworn in. On top of that, I do want to give a huge shout out to my staff. I've been actively watching the calls for service for our department throughout the year, and comparatively, we are actually having higher calls for service than the sheriff's office does. And typically, Brush, we usually hit around 50% of what Fort Morgan is. I want to bring that up as we're not quite, we're about a little bit more than 50% what Fort Morgan is, but we're considerably shorter staffed than they are. So I think it just shows the character of my department, how hard they're working, how much effort they're putting into it. A lot of calls for service. We're dealing with a lot of the same issues that Fort Morgan is, a little smaller scale, but actively getting out there and doing a really good job. So I just want to make sure that they get the kudos that they deserve, because they're out there every day, 24/7, 365 days a year. So nothing major to speak about, but if anybody has any questions, concerns, comments.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have Director of Public Works, Dale Colbrick.
I think you used your 3 minutes, so.
I did. Can I have another 5?
Yes. For those next four meetings you
Okay. Just real quickly, preservation projects are done on the streets that we had planned out for this week, or this year, and I think it went fairly well. There was a small little hiccup over on Lincoln Street, but our street department will be addressing that little issue and try to get that thing fixed. The good news is we came in, I believe, about 9,000 square feet less, maybe it was yards, quite a bit less. And so what we had originally planned on is we came up shorter, and I don't know how, because I'm usually pretty spot on in terms of square footages. And but based on, and I'm not going to argue with the contractor, if he says that we came up short, then they came up short, and we'll take that and take that as a bonus. But I really want to put a shout out to our crews. They did a lot of work, very intense work during the heat, trying to get these roads prepped. Even the contractor said these roads are great. And this is the treatment that it needed. And so we can easily get another 10, 12 years out of these roadways just with this one particular application. So we're looking forward on doing more next year. But for those of you who had your streets fixed, hope you enjoy them, because I know there's a lot of people in a lot of different areas of town right now that are really happy with the way it turned out. So that's over with until next year. Again, we're going to be concentrating on weeds, trees, and alleys right now. Once we get caught up, we're going to go back right on the streets and try to get those ready to go for spring of next year. And that way our crews can concentrate on weeds, trees, and alleys in the springtime instead of trying to catch up in order to get with contractors for preservation. So anyway, that's it with preservation. Tyler somewhat touched on this already with the fiber update, but just to bring you a little more information on that, Patrick is our special projects coordinator, and he is taking each permit that we have issued these fiber companies one at a time, and he's going out with the representatives from those companies, and they're walking everywhere. They're going to walk the entire installation path and point out where they need to do those restorations. And when that permit's done, we'll close it out he'll grab the next permit. And then he will take each permit one by one and walk with the contractors to make sure that they do the proper restoration. That's one thing about these rains, is that it did expose any weaknesses or flaws in the installations. Not all of them are that way, but there are some that definitely need attention, and so they're going to be working on that as well. There was a question last council meeting about the poles laying on the north side of Mill Street. I did reach out to XL because, to be honest with you, I'm looking at the poles that are installed and they're really tall, and I'm looking at those poles that are laying on the ground. They don't look very tall at all. However, they did assure me that those are the ones that are supposed to go in and that they're going to meet the height, if not exactly the same height, they're supposed to be even taller. So I guess we'll find out when we get to that point. One of the reasons why they've not been installed is because they are still waiting on CDOT's permit in order for them to cross over Colorado Avenue, State Highway 71, as well as getting a permit to cross over I-76 as they go north to that solar field that's just been recently installed. So that's been the holdup in getting those poles replaced and installed, is just trying to waiting for that CDOT permit. So that's why they're still there. So.
I just wanted to say thank you really quick, backing up to preservation. I wanted to say thank you to you and your staff and the contractor. The level of communication that we received before they came to our street was amazing. We received a notification from the contractor first, we received another notification from city staff, and then the morning of, even though we all had already moved our cars and the signs were up, they still knocked on our doors to make sure we didn't have any cars in our garages that we were gonna be blocked in. So I just really wanted to say thank you for the level of communication that we received on that project.
Perfect, that's what we should be doing. So, all right.
I got a question for you, Dale.
Sure.
So earlier, the library board was in here. I know we talked about this
I
in
didn't want
depth.
to touch on that until.
Oh, you want me to, okay, I'll be quick.
Well, no, I mean, I was told bring this back till the next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay.
We have, I guess where to start with this is we decided at one point in time we were looking at radar feedback signs. Those just recently came in about a month ago.
Cool.
And so we haven't had the opportunity to visit with the residents of the neighborhood and get those installed, because I do believe we had talked about and agreed upon that lowering the speed limit down to 25 with radar feedback signs in 2 different areas. And these are the areas where people tend to speed as they're coming to that intersection. And so those radar feedback signs we just received just about a month ago.
Cool.
And we haven't had an opportunity to get those installed and programmed yet. So, okay, now that I've interrupted you, you can carry
No,
on.
that's what I was going to ask you. I know we talked a lot about it, and I was going to ask you about the signs, or there's a plan of some sort to do. 'Cause
Sure,
it's
sure.
gonna keep coming back, if not, right?
And I hate keeping to throw the supply chain under the bus, but I have to throw the supply chain under the bus, because we paid for we ordered those a long, long time ago. And even, and I did visit with Director McConnell even to let her know at one point in time, maybe 2 months back, that we're still waiting on these signs. We haven't received them yet. And so, and even the street department didn't know what they were when they came in, because I was looking for them. They said, oh, these are it. But that was, again, only about a month ago that we actually did receive that shipment of signs. And we just haven't had the opportunity to get them installed, because we've been busy with the preservation of our roads, and as well as trying to catch up with trees, weeds, and alleys. So, but we will get to it.
I honestly do think that's probably the better route than stop signs, simply because I live on a street where there's stop signs, and the street that there's stop signs, the one that's not stopped, is a drag strip down through there in front of the library. So I think what they're trying to do is just going to make it worse in the other direction, because there's nobody slowing down for that intersection. It's just going to
And I think we've even talked about this here, is that stop signs doesn't mean that they're going to stop.
No.
Even Director McConnell has mentioned, even in this particular room before, that she lives right there by a corner on, I believe, Emerson and
Custer, I think.
Custer, and they blow through it all the time.
They blow through mine on camera.
They blow through it all the time. People just don't stop at a stop sign. Stop sign doesn't do anything. In fact, it gives somebody a false sense of security if they come up to that intersection thinking that somebody will stop, and they don't.
And I just want to speak for it. It doesn't speak for huge, the entire population of Brush, but the community survey that was sent out, I went through that entire list, just kind of getting a gauge on what community. Stop signs were one of the only traffic-related issues. Speeding and stop signs, there wasn't. And controlled intersections, I kind of anticipated there would be, but stop signs were one of the areas that people had complained about on the survey, that was an issue, so.
And also statistically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there tends to be more accidents at controlled intersections than uncontrolled intersections. Because when you go up to an uncontrolled intersection, just a little bit more cautious than, okay, they got stop signs, I'm going.
At my job, they have the cameras inside and outside the truck now, and they've came out with this policy that it's an automatic termination if you, even California, stop a stop sign. And I can tell you firsthand, there's probably 30 drivers that now have to correct themselves, because I was horrible at California stopping stop signs until this little rule came along. So I can tell you that stop signs don't usually work. You just get to the point where you kind of glance, slow down, you don't actually ever stop. So,
and so
unless they're going to fire you, then that's a pretty good motivation to stop a stop sign.
I didn't realize that level of frustration had been building with the library, and I'll reach out to the director tomorrow and visit with Director McConnell and visit with her. And I suppose it's probably still my fault that finding out just about 3 weeks ago or a month ago that we had these these speed limit feedback signs but I did not communicate that to her, and I should have. And so that would be my.
You got a lot going on.
I do, but it's still no excuse. Okay. Okay, with that.
So a crew putting in, I believe, was a new water meter at my house. Is that?
Maybe I should
talk about next.
Maybe I should just defer that to other people.
Okay.
Delegate that, right? Delegate it, not defer, delegate. So.
All right.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Next, we have the water foreman, Steve Clamella.
Clamella, you're close enough.
Well, he was whispering in my ear, so it got weird, that's why I got
I'll pass this to you first, Al. So, David had already mentioned that too. That is one of the new iPearl mag meters that we are installing in throughout the community. We started about 2 years ago. It's a learning curve process because some of these meters are located inside someone's home. So it's about a scheduling conflict. Knocking on doors, letting them know, hey, we'd like to change your meter so you can start learning a little bit more about what goes on in your house. I was kind of tasked a two-part here. I'll hand you guys out everything I've got. First one is more about building knowledge in our usage throughout the entire community and Brush as a whole. I'm gonna try to get these all out. I guess could have handed it to Allison, had it passed over, but
I'm good at passing.
get close to you guys that way.
Steve, how much does one of these units cost?
That is a 3/4 inch short meter. That one runs about $132.
Oh, that's not bad.
A 1 inch is about $187. And they're only gonna go more expensive, but we've kind of stockpiled, if you will, in our shop right now. On hand, I have about 260 3/4 inch meters on site right now, and about 1 inch, I only have about 6 left. But we've been exchanging them out, so that's just what I have on hand right now. In the community, we're about 52% already exchanged out. So, and which, like I said, I'll walk through the first portion of the charts, bar chart.
Busted.
That's yours. David. We already have a new meter, David. Yes, sir. Not everybody will have one. Larry, you have one as well. And Monty, there's yours. I know you already received an email on that one. Justin, that is not yours. You're an undisclosed address. And same for Nathan. I'll explain your two at the end, but
I know I still got the old meter.
yes, correct. You got it. If you'd like to schedule,
Mine's noisy.
please do. Yes, yeah. This one is also very silent. It'll take a lot of the noise away from the knocking that you get on those old SR2, because the older styles weigh like 300 pounds if you ask me, but they're brass. They're very obnoxious. They stick out like sore thumbs. These are very plastic. They're more temperamental, quieter. You'll see a lot of
I
benefits
don't even
when
know
you
where my
switch over to
meter
them.
is.
Yours is out in the meter pit out front.
I thought so.
Yes. So on the first page, you'll notice this is just an overall kind of usage. This one right here was highlighted down below on the first one that says 2024. That is just where we're currently sitting at in million gallons of usage throughout the entire city of Rush. So when you see 274 million gallons, it's quite a bit, but you can look at last year, we maxed out at 420 million. That's not anywhere near our threshold of what we're allotted, but it is a very high number.
Comparatively, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're okay.
Comparatively, looking at July 24 versus July 23, is it just because it's
Yes.
been so hot?
It's correct, yes, yep. Temperatures play a role in that. A lot of industrial users play a role in that. Sprinklers play a large role in that, which we'll break down on the individual charts near the end of this. If you switch to the next page, it just goes farther back in time. I've kind of highlighted up till 2017. You can notice a very large decrease in 2017, and if you go even farther back to, say, 2003, 2004, we were no more near 300, 400 million gallons. Now we're in the 400 million gallons, and this year we're looking at, based off of the numbers we're seeing, we're halfway there. We might reach 500 million by next year. So it's just because Rush is growing, which is not always a bad thing. It's just we have to plan accordingly for water conservation. And if we can get ahead of it and communicate with the community and let them know that, hey, this newer technology, such as these meters, are out here, if you could get a better understanding of not only what you are putting on your lawn, how many showers you're taking, things like that, what your dishwasher can do, how many loads of laundry you do, when do you water your yard, those little things can really maximize a very large difference. Then if you switch over to the third page, that one is our total water from our depth perspective. You can see it just in a different bar chart. Sorry, it's a hard word there. These are just graphs. Just some people like to look at the graph design because they can only read a number so far, but if they see it in the graph table, they're like, oh, look at that large decrease in 2003 opposed to 2002. We were really high. Then 2023, a lot of people started conserving water. Maybe people moved away, less industrial users. And then the last page is from our depth charts on our well field. Obviously, the more water we use in Rush from the inlet, the worse our depth is going to be in our well field because we're pulling so much more water out of our depth field. As you can see, the green chart all the way at the right is our current projections right now. We read these on a monthly basis, and then we get an overall total average use throughout the 12-month calendar year. You can see most of it looks pretty conservative in a real retrospective way. There's no real reason for cause and concern, alarm, but like I said, this is a forefront thinking. Let's get ahead of it before it becomes a problem in the future. If we stay on pace that we did like this year, we might have real big problems within 5-6 years. So we're trying to, like I said, maximize our knowledgeability here. The last page that you'll have is your own individual reports, other than Justin and Nathan. You guys got undisclosed addresses, and only because I don't have any meters for you guys yet. They're not installed, so I can't give you one out. If you wanted to break it down though, the first section is obviously the date. That was red, and this is in military time. So military time is everything's just a singular is AM, and then the 24-hour period, you subtract 12 hours from it, you get your actual PM time. So just some side notes here. And Monty, of course, nobody got everybody else's addresses here, but full disclosure, if Monty wanted to utilize his to show you an example of his, Monty has a clear-cut sprinkler leak or a toilet leak or something's going on in his house. He has continuous usage. What you want to look on that block line, you want to see zeros. Zeros means you're asleep, you're not using any water. So yeah,
You got zeros?
So as an example, Mayor Person Larry, you're never home. David, you're never home either. You also have zero escape yard possibly because you never water. Daniel, yours is a little bit weird because you just got your meter changed just recently within the last 4 days. So
Today?
wouldn't see it, yeah, 2-3 days ago. Yeah, last Friday, Thursday, it got changed out.
Oh, I saw him out by the street there today.
Gotcha.
So this is really interesting to me
Yes.
because on the 12th, that was the day of the flood.
Yes.
We watered that morning.
That
and
is the
we
last day you watered since
Yeah,
then.
we immediately turned off our sprinklers after that.
Smart move on your end, but it's kind of creepy that I can see all that. And
Yeah, that's a little, I can, like, immediately I knew what it was.
the
And
forward
I'm like,
thinking
that's
is though,
disturbing.
is eventually I'd like it to be to where the software's out there, the availability's out there, where you can log in yourself and see your own usage,
So
not
what does-
anybody else's.
What do these amounts like equate to? Like a .22, what does
Yes.
that equate to?
That is 2/10 of 1 gallon.
So what would that
not
be?
even
Would
a
that
full
be
gallon.
like, would that be
You
like
just
flushing
washing
a
your hands.
toilet or?
You washing your hands.
Okay.
That simple, that low. It will register very that low.
Your ice maker.
I have some
Yeah, your
negative
ice
numbers.
Yeah. Negative numbers is just a fluctuation of the pressure. So when you turn on your water, and that's just a normalcy. I saw those first time, and I called eventually the census contractor and I said, why am I seeing negative .01?
Yeah.
They said that's just due to the fluctuation of it, because these meters sometimes aren't fully, air pocket. There's lots of little variables that go into that, but it is normal to say.
Sure would have liked to have this when my wife wanted the swimming pool filled up.
Those are also questions you can answer too, if you have older kids and they're taking too many showers. It's just, like I said, this is just for user friendliness. Somebody can see in the future. And I'd like it to be eventually to where we can have it online, possibly even our Brushco Follow website, where the homeowner can go and look at their utility bill, click down the feed, and then go right to it and pull the last 30 days.
This is kind of cool, especially for someone like me. I'm fully remote, so I'm always home.
Yeah.
And then my son is in online school, so he's also always home. And it's just kind of interesting, but like I can see that I consistently do my chores at the same time.
Yes, yeah. And like I said, I had you report, Allison, your meter was probably one of the oldest meters we've already had installed when I started here. And so I had 3 years I could run back, and you switched your sprinkler time. You used to sprinkle at 1 o'clock in the morning, then you switched to 5 o'clock in the morning.
You're creeping me out right
So,
So the 1 o'clock in the morning actually happened due to a power outage, and my husband wasn't home to change the clock, and I didn't know how to do it myself.
Okay. But the biggest thing is just being able to read it, understand it, because that's probably the number one. Right now, the way it works is if somebody has a new meter, they call and say, hey, why did I get a high water bill? We go out and investigate. The first thing we do is say, if you have a new meter, one of these new iPearls, we will pull the report, we'll give it to you, we can email it to you, whatever's easiest way for you if you're away from home, and then you can read it. The number one phone call I get right back is, how do I read this thing?
Well, yeah, because like I'm looking at
And-
these and
yeah.
I don't know what these totals mean.
Correct, yeah. That's the one thing I wish the Surface interface would do a little bit better, was explaining to a homeowner or property owner that this is how you read it. I think either Justin or Nathan, you got one of the homeowners that has a very large, high usage. Sprinkler is like in the 1,000s range.
Lord.
Yes, and they continuously run it every single day for 4 hours a day. I can tell you right now, their bill was through the roof, and they swore up and down they don't sprinkler their water, but they do.
How green is your grass? That's the
It's
telltale
better than the Rockies outfield stadium. Yeah, so, better than I can make line.
This is a cool tool for,
Yeah.
like I'm a plumber.
Yes.
This is a cool tool
So
just
you
to
can't take
see.
yours, yours is 3/4 short, I'll just get you the touch better.
Yeah, just, then you can ignore my bypass around my meter.
So, I will say, I did hear from Census, the company that is doing these iPearls, there's an integrated new software program that's coming out in 2025, where even the homeowner can get an alert or a notification on their cell phone that will say, you have a leak in your house. And then.
That's cool.
And then you don't have to worry about, why is my bill high? You can just call the utility department or go to your house and you shut your own water off or find out what the leak is.
So
And it
because someone like
registers
me
really
who's always home, so like I have very few zeros.
Yes.
Very few. Would you assume that I have a leak, not knowing that I'm always home?
Initially, I thought that, yes. I thought something such as like, I heard ice machine maker, really low registered marks. But you do have zeros. So if you wouldn't have any zeros, like Monty, I would say you have a leak, but you don't
Oh,
have
so a leak would be detected by the fact that there were no zeros?
No zeros, yes. You want to see the zeros. The zeros are the good trace markers that there's no problems. Nathan, if you ended up with
That
the other
person
one, you
sleeps
see
well.
one that has kind of, they had a leak, quite a bit of usage, and then they went to a lot of zeros. Either A, we turned them off because they had a leak, and then they found out they had the leak, they fixed the leak, and then you see regular usage and then some more zeros on it.
Okay, gotcha, that makes sense.
And Loranda, you're on that list too. We can't change your meter yet too, because yours is also inside your house too.
My husband's gonna get a kick out of this. Thank you.
Anytime you guys need a report, just reach out to us right now. That's kind of like one of the baby steps. We haven't integrated in yet to software packs to be able to do this. So, but
Are you moving the meters outside or are they staying inside?
right now they're staying inside. I've been talking with Dale a little bit about possibly a kind of a way to coexist with moving some of them out there. It's a financial thing, to be more honest with you. I mean, it'd be more beneficial if it was a pit all the way across the board, but there's also downsides of having just a pit. You know, there's cold weather temps, we get those cold weather snaps, we get a lot of freeze ups, and when it's inside your house, it's less likely to do that.
I'm gonna ask one more time, and I'm gonna write it down this time. What do these numbers mean? They're
Those are
parts?
read in singular 1 gallons usage, so not 1,000 gallons or.
So a
it's every single-
3.54 would be 3.5 gallons.
3.5 gallons, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry if you already answered this, but when do you expect to have the entire city of Brush done?
The entire city brush we plan on having by the end of next year. Okay. Because just with the inflation of cost of meters, they keep climbing every year. We're just not trying to afford that. We're trying to be done. So, but like I said, we're about 52% changed out.
What if somebody doesn't want you to put a meter in? Is that up to them?
Not really. No,
Okay.
no, it'd be a give and take. We haven't actually had a lot of customers that we have changed inside their house have any problems with it. The meter's not a charge to them. They're really receptive about the knowledgeability and the things they can learn about it.
Right.
And then it also answers all their questions. And so usually when my operators and myself are out there, it really answers a lot of their questions.
This is unlike the XL smart meter change. They're not charging you extra for like peak usage. That's what I think everybody's so standoffish about the XL smart meters. They want to see what you're using at peak usage and charge you a higher rate.
And they don't give you a choice.
Yes, they do.
They did not give me a choice. They showed up to my door and just changed it.
You should have got stuff in the mail.
Yeah, they
I got on my Ring doorbell telling them to leave, so.
The choice was that they will charge you an extra $30 a month to come physically read your meter.
Yeah.
That is your choice. You
Which
can opt out.
still could be a cost savings if you use high energy, like some of the newer houses are different, but my house is old AC, like R22.
Oh.
And I'll probably still save money if they charge me $30. So.
Yeah, see, I'm not too worried about it because apparently I'm never home, so.
I do have a question about the implications of this, and this is gonna be probably more for Chris and for Monty. So we have a set amount of gallons that our customers are charged for. Is there a potentiality of this causing an issue with how that looks? Do you catch my drift?
Like if they're using under the, then, yeah.
If they're using.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Just something to maybe look at.
If they're not using the allotment and they're getting charged for an allotment, I don't think that.
Oh, so
Because we have a flat rate.
it's a
Yeah,
flat
we'll break
rate.
that threshold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a threshold thing, so if you go over by 1 gallon, you're going to the above 5,000, but anything up to 5,000, it's just part of your rate.
Okay.
And then this right here, I can't remember, when we first investigated this, it was, we should be able to be more accurate now on what we're reading because our old meters, they typically under-report your usage.
Yes.
So when you get the new one,
Those are
it'll be more accurate.
Yes. They have a 20-year lifespan. They'll last 20 years.
Nice.
That's what the manufacturers have listed out to.
These probably help address some of the lead stuff too, right, Dale?
Yeah, no lead. Yep. No movable parts. Like I said, they're a little more temperamental for temperature usage, so less freeze-up possibilities. Simpler, they wet way less. They're less noisy. So if you have it inside your house, you won't hear that knocking as you turn on your water or take a shower or whatever it is.
So you said they're good for 20 years, I think, warranted, so if one does go down, the city does not
They're
pay for
warranted
new
on a
one?
limited warranty. It's up to 2 years after installation date, but 20 years for the whole lifespan. So we do keep track of everything we install. So within the next 17, 18 years, we might need to start changing out some meters.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry I didn't have your guys's, but eventually you guys will have one. And, yeah.
Just let me know when you want to change it.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Finance Director Chris Boster.
You guys can hold on to your stuff.
Nothing. All right. Then we have City Clerk Loretta Packard.
The only thing for me to mention tonight is that we're working to line up training for council. Monty and I are working on that, and I will likely be emailing everyone this week.
Cool. All right. Dan Crabb, you still awake, brother?
I am. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Lundstrom. I don't really have anything to add other than I'm working on that Excel franchise agreement that Tyler and Monty got to me a while ago. So we'll get that back to them shortly.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? No? All right, thank you, Dan. Monty Torres, City Administrator.
No report this evening. I'd rather save it for the work session.
All right, Mayor and Council reports. Anybody have anything to report?
As part of the housing board, we're going to tour the Meadow Vista Apartments across the street from the high school on Wednesday. So next council meeting, I'll bring back some pictures and some not advice, but I'll bring back some feedback.
That'd be great.
But when we did tour them, when they were going through about 2 months ago, the finishes and everything were just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
How many units are out there?
Good question.
44? 44?
Something like that. Yeah.
That's very cool.
I think it looks great from
Yeah,
the
it
outside
does.
too. It really.
They did a really good job with the landscape and everything, and they had a dead pine tree in front. They ripped it out, replaced it.
Nice.
So they're doing good things over there.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I'm excited to see those pictures. So, anybody else? Easy peasy. All right, need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I do the aye thing? Yeah.
All those in favor say
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign? Nope. All right, we're adjourned.
I need just a minute to get us off of broadcasting.
We'll start work sessions shortly.
So I'm assuming if you want to do something dastardly, you just leave your water running, so that's now your alibi.
And after your letter, you should have received.
Yeah? Huh? Mr. Tyree, you were taking an 8-hour